A millionaire walks into the bakery and saves the pregnant woman abandoned and starving. Elias Carter didn't look like your typical millionaire. Quiet, cold eyes tucked behind thick glasses. His expensive coat buttoned tight against the biting city wind. Yet on this bleak morning, with the steel-gray sky pressing down, he stepped into the tiny bakery like a man desperate for a sliver of warmth, something no amount of money could buy. The bakery was squeezed between towering office buildings that gleamed glass and steel, unyielding to the chill. But inside, a different world waited. The air was thick with the smell of fresh bread, butter, and something sweet, like hope. Soft light spilled from old-fashioned lamps, a stark contrast to the harsh city outside. Elias moved quietly, his footsteps muffled on the worn wooden floor. He wanted nothing but solitude. No flashy greetings, no curious stares. Just a corner, a silent cup of coffee, and maybe a crust of something edible. Yet the bakery held a secret that morning, one he hadn't expected. In a dim, shadowed nook, nearly hidden behind a rickety table, sat a young woman. Her clothes hung loose on her swollen belly, several months along, and there was something terribly wrong. Her face was pale, almost translucent, eyes hollow and darkening with exhaustion and hunger. Her hands trembled as they clutched the hem of her coat. Elias caught his breath. He'd seen pain in high places, in polished offices and private rooms. But this was pure fear, raw and unfiltered. The woman looked up, gaze flickering with both terror and hopelessness. She barely whispered her name, Lily, and it sounded like a plea. No one noticed her here. The clatter of dishes, the hum of the city filtered through thick glass walls. But inside this tiny space, time slowed, folding into quiet desperation. Elias's chest tightened. He wanted to look away, the weight of his own history clawing at his mind. Family secrets wrapped in lies, betrayals cut deep, walls built to keep pain buried. But Lily's trembling presence pulled at something buried long ago. When he reached out his hand, it wasn't just to offer bread or comfort. It was a lifeline. Her eyes widened, a flicker of disbelief, then reluctant trust. But beneath the surface of her despair, Elias felt the chill of danger, an invisible shadow closing in. Something about her story didn't add up. The chill that bit through his coat was nothing compared to the threat stalking her. The threat that now locked onto him as well. Suddenly, the warm air in the bakery grew thick with silence. The clanking outside the door froze. Faces pressed to the glass, whispers tangled with suspicion and fear. Elias's muscles tensed. He could almost hear the low murmur. Who is this woman? What terrible secret does she carry? And then the sharp crack of a door slamming somewhere far off, a warning he couldn't ignore. Elias swallowed hard. He knew the quiet life he sought was gone. Now he was tangled in something dark, something dangerous. What secrets was Lily hiding beneath that haunted, hungry look? And how far would those who wanted to silence her go? The answers were hidden in shadows, just beyond the warm glow of the bakery, waiting to pull Elias and Lily into a fight neither of them expected. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Elias's heart raced. The bakery felt like a scene from a slowly unfolding nightmare. The whispers outside intensified, slithering through the cracks of the door, chilling the air. He glanced back at Lily. She clutched her coat tighter, eyes darting. Sensing the tension that hung heavily in the warm space, a voice broke through the chatter, sharp and demanding. Lily! It cut the stillness like a knife, shattering the moment. Elias turned. A man pushed through the door, breathless, wild-eyed. He was disheveled, a storm of anger ready to burst. Elias felt the heat of his rage radiate, almost boiling over. "We've been looking for you." Fear washed over Lily's face, an ocean of despair. "No, please," she said, her voice barely a whisper, but it cut through the bakery's warm ambiance like ice. She rose slowly, shaking, trying to back away, but the man stepped forward, closing the gap. "Stop this, you can't come back," he roared. His eyes gleamed with desperation, and Elias sensed the danger crackling in the air like static electricity. "What's going on?" Elias interjected, standing firm, instinctively positioning himself between Lily and the man. The challenge sparked between them, tension vibrating through the bakery. The man's gaze shifted, running over Elias's expensive coat, the polished shoes. "Stay out of this, you." "Don't understand." He meant to intimidate, but each word dripped with panic. Stop." Lily's voice cut through the chaos, raw and urgent. Seeing her courage poured over Elias with a rush of adrenaline. "Just, please don't hurt anyone." She sank to the floor, cradling her belly, trembling. Elias's heart sank. He felt torn. This wasn't just about helping her anymore. It was about protecting a life that hadn't yet begun. But the man stepped closer, eyes burning with a haunting desperation. "You don't know what she is, what she's done." The room fell into a hush, all breaths suspended, as if the air itself held its breath. The murmurs outside grew louder. Curious faces pressed against the glass, spectating the drama unfolding within. "Is she dangerous?" Elias asked, voice lower, trying to discern friend from foe amid the tension. But as Lily's eyes met his, filled with an unexpected mixture of fear and something else, was it defiance? He realized he was standing at the precipice of a cliff he hadn't anticipated. Suddenly, the unexpected happened. The door swung open again, this time more violently. A group of 3 men stormed in, faces dark with intent. "There you are," one shouted, locking eyes with the man who had entered before. "You're not getting her, we have a deal." "Get back," the first man yelled, staggering under the weight of the situation. But panic wasn't his only weapon, and his hand twitched toward his waistband. In that moment, the bakery erupted. People screamed, chairs scraped against the floor, and warmth turned to hysteria. The scent of fresh bread mixed with fear, a pungent cocktail that flooded Elias's senses. He felt the heat of the chaos envelop him. "No!" Lily cried out. "Get away from him!" Though she was terrified, there was strength in her voice, a spark in the darkness. Elias felt it pull him, grounding him. Time slowed as he watched the chaos unfold. But in those fleeting seconds, something twisted in his gut. What was really happening here? Was Lily the victim or something far more dangerous? If this was indeed a game, whose game was it? As fists flew and voices shouted, he locked eyes with Lily one last time. The truth hung between them unanswered, pulling him into a vortex of uncertainty and fear. What secret lay buried beneath her frightened eyes, and how far would he go to find it? Elias stood frozen, caught between chaos and uncertainty. The bakery felt like it was collapsing around him. Whispers surged from the crowd outside, shadows creeping closer, peering in at the storm brewing inside. Lily's pleading eyes held his gaze, each second weighing down like lead. Suddenly, without warning, a loud crash echoed through the bakery. A glass display case shattered, sending shards flying in unpredictable directions. Time paused as all eyes snapped toward the source. A figure burst through the door, her face masked by shadows, but one thing was clear. She held a gun, pointing it straight at the man confronting Lily. "Back off, all of you." Her voice cut through the air, sharp and decisive. The bakery plunged into a suffocating silence, tension hanging so thick you could almost slice it. Elias's heart raced. Who was she? The wild-eyed man stepped back, confusion flickering across his features. "You're too late. Get her out of here." "Get down," the woman shouted again, this time looking directly at Elias, her eyes fierce. He instinctively crouched, pulling Lily down beside him, both shielding her belly and his own heart pounding in adrenaline. The men who had stormed in exchanged bewildered glances, fear momentarily forgotten. "You don't have to do this," one of them shouted, but the tone in his voice spoke more of desperation than bravery. "Lily, stay close to me," Elias whispered, his voice barely audible over the growing tension. Her body trembled next to him, weight pressed on her shoulders, a life hanging in the balance. "Lily," the woman with the gun shouted again, as if naming her fragmented his world. "You should have left while you had the chance." At that, Lily's gaze flicked from Elias to the gun-wielding woman, horror pooling in her eyes like a deep well. I don't know you," she stammered, panic lacing her words. But the woman shook her head. "You don't understand. They're not who you think." With each word, the weight of secrets grew heavier in the air. The atmosphere twisted with shock, shivers rippling through the crowded bakery. Whispers turned to gasps. "What's happening?" Elias's voice trembled as he shifted slightly, trying to keep Lily behind him. It felt as if the entire bakery held its breath, waiting for the next move. "Don't trust her," the man shouted, pointing now at the woman with the gun. "You think she's here to help? You're wrong." The second man narrowed his eyes, swiftly making a decision. "That's enough. Get her out." He lunged forward, seizing a chair to shield himself, but in one swift motion, the woman adjusted her aim and fired. The shot pierced the air like thunder. Chaos erupted. People screamed, ducking for cover. The bullet glanced off a pipe, sending sparks flying, a shower of metal that ripped through the bakery's cozy atmosphere. "Lily," Elias shouted, pushing them both down further, heart hammering against his chest. Then something caught his eye. The woman had dropped her gun, clutching her shoulder. A glimmer of recognition washed over Lily's face, and it distorted into shock. "You," she gasped, the world spinning, the air thickening with secrets unraveling. Elias caught her gaze, confusion wrapping around his mind like a noose. The woman struggled to get back up, pain etched on her forehead, but she managed a smile. "You may not remember me, but I'm here to save us all." Suddenly, everything shifted. The truth twisted and turned in a dance of betrayal. What had Lily done to put them all in danger? Who was this woman who claimed to be a savior? Was she a friend or a foe? Elias felt the floor tremble beneath him, and he realized with a jolt that they were all on the brink of a revelation that would change everything he thought he knew. The fight was far from over, and the darkness lurking just out of sight was alive and hungry. What secrets lay hidden beneath the chaos? And how far would Elias go to protect the woman he barely knew, but felt inexplicably drawn to? Elias's breath caught in his throat as the chaos surrounded them. The gunshots still echoed in his mind, each heartbeat pounding like a war drum. Lily trembled beside him, her eyes darting between the woman on the floor and the man who had just tried to seize her. He could feel the weight of everything pressing down, the fear, the uncertainty, the sharp edge of danger ready to slice through the already thin atmosphere. "Get back," the man shouted again, frantically trying to stabilize the situation, but only making it worse. People huddled low, panic coursing through the bakery like wildfire. "Lily, please," the woman pleaded, a mix of pain and desperation in her voice. "You don't understand. I've come to protect you." "Protect her?" Elias's voice shot out before he could stop it. "From who? From what?" The room was charged with an energy almost electric, and eyes turned toward the woman, searching for answers. But then, there was movement outside, a shadow crossing the glass door, breaking the fray. Into a collective gasp. Elias's heart raced, instinct telling him to look. But what he saw sent ice trickling down his spine. A figure, tall and unmoving, watching closely. A flash of recognition. "No," he whispered, breathless. It was someone he knew, someone he thought was gone forever. Jonathan Hayes, his childhood best friend. vanished years ago, presumed dead. His frame was unmistakable, but the coldness in his eyes now was like a distant storm. Jonathan. The name slipped from Elias's lips, incredulity splattering the air. The bakery froze. The wild-eyed man's jaw tightened, and the gun-wielding woman's expression shifted from pain to deep-seated anger. "You didn't tell him," she accused, eyes narrowing. "Tell me what?" Elias's voice wobbled with the shock that dripped like poison in his soul. "What were you talking about?" Jonathan stepped forward, fury painted across his face. "You were never supposed to know." Beneath the cacophony still ringing in his ears, all Elias could think about was the bond they once shared. "But how? You died. We searched for you." "Did you?" Jonathan's voice was chilling, a veil of bitterness slipping through each word. Or was it all a lie? Lily's wide eyes flicked between the two men as realization crept in. There were layers here, unseen and unfathomable. "Elias, what's happening?" Her voice trembled, filled with confusion. The bakery, once filled with warmth, now buzzed with a tension so thick you could slice it in two. A part of Elias desperately wanted to reach out, to comfort her, to save her from whatever storm was brewing, but Jonathan's presence made it impossible to think straight. "I'll explain everything, but not here, not now." Jonathan's voice dropped, the intensity shifting. "They can't find you, not now that they know." A collective murmur rose from the crowd pressing against the windows, eyes bulging, waiting for the next move. "Who's they?" Elias shot back, urgency clawing at him. "You never mentioned anything about danger. You never came back." "I had to keep you safe," Jonathan snapped, his frustration bubbling over. "There are forces at play, Elias. You're tied to this somehow, and now you're all in danger." "No," Lily gasped, her hand clutching Elias's arm tighter, pulling him back from the edge of a growing abyss. "You don't understand. Just then, the bakery door slammed open again, and a group of men in dark suits stormed in, eyes scanning the room like wolves on a hunt. They felt different, cold and calculating. "Lily," one barked, locking onto her like a laser, stepping forward with intent. "Come with us, and it won't get messy." Elias felt his blood drain. "No," he shouted, instinctively pushing Lily behind him. But something deep inside him began to unravel. Was it out of protection or desperation? Jonathan's expression turned grave. "Get down." He pushed past Elias, positioning himself in front of the gun-wielding woman, a sense of determination radiating dangerously. "Step aside," the leader of the new group commanded, voice slicing through the chaos. But as tension coiled tighter, the shocking truth began to unfurl in Elias's mind, a realization that knotted his stomach and twisted his heart. What if the life he thought he had turned out to be a carefully woven lie? What if Lily was at the center of it all, tied to forces he couldn't even fathom? The air thickened, secrets ready to spill from lips that trembled with fear. The bakery felt smaller, suffocating, as ambiguity twisted around everyone like a cruel joke. Elias stood on the brink of revelation, faced with questions that clawed at him, desperate for answers. What had brought Jonathan back? What was Lily's connection to this unfolding nightmare? And why did everything feel like a tragic play where he was the unwitting fool caught in a world he was never meant to enter? As the first man took a step closer, guns still drawn, Elias felt every eye locked on him, each heartbeat echoing like a ticking clock, and the truth felt only a whisper away from explosion. Elias's heart pounded like a drum as the air in the bakery crackled with tension. Every eye was on him, the weight of their collective fear pressing down, suffocating. The man in the door had just issued a brutal demand, and for a moment, time felt like it was standing still. He turned to Lily, who was trembling beside him, wide eyes full of confusion and dread. "Stay close," he murmured, instinctively shielding her. But in that moment of suspended fear, the unexpected happened. A sharp noise cut through the tension, a blast of sound that rocked the bakery. The gunshot that echoed felt haunting and off protocol, not from the chaos of the struggling strangers, but from an entirely different direction, the back exit of the small place. Someone burst through, shattering the fragile reality they were all clinging to. A woman, head down, hair wild, skidded into view, tracking a spinning sign on the door where she had burst through. A shotgun hung loosely from her grip, swinging back and forth as she rushed inside, a tempest of motion and sound. "Run!" she yelled, voice fierce, cutting through the icy air like a knife. Panic raced through the bakery, and people scrambled for the unguarded corners. The bearded man with the wild eyes dropped his anger and dove to the floor, while the flip of a chair sent up a spray of dust and dread. But it was the woman with the shotgun that turned the tide. "Everyone out, now!" she roared, but her focus was unwavering, locked onto Jonathan. "You thought you could hide from me?" At her words, chaos froze again. Elias's breath caught. Jonathan, evasively stepping back, his face washed over with shock. "No, not you." The disbelief in his voice was like a thunderclap. He shifted forward as if compelled by some unseen force. Lily gaped, glancing between the two. "Storm, stay back," the woman barked, raising her weapon, her face taut with resolve. "This isn't your story anymore, Jonathan. You're exposing everything." Elias felt confusion wash over him like icy water. What was going on? The world tilted. Facts morphed into fiction. Suddenly, the tension snapped. In one quick sweep, Jonathan lunged for the woman, but her aim tightened. "You think this is just about you?" she yelled, desperate fury sparking in her eyes. "You don't even know what you've done." And then it happened, a jarring revelation. The woman took a step back, almost involuntarily, and in that moment, the shotgun went off, not like a whip, but more like a hammer to a glass box. A clarion blast rang through the bakery, shattering the air. No one moved, or rather they couldn't, as the door behind Jonathan swung wide. A man stepped in, an imposing presence, face calm and focused. It was Dominic, Elias's father. "Enough," he commanded, the authority in his voice slicing through the turmoil. Eyes locked onto him. Shockwaves radiated through the crowd. Elias stood frozen, heart stuttering. "Dad, what? How are you here?" But just then, Lily gasped, eyes wide with realization. You were the one sending them after me." Her voice trembled, the truth unraveling like threads yanked from a tapestry. The bakery exploded into stunned silence. Jonathan's face twisted in anger. "You don't get it." Of familiarity now suffocating. Secrets crawled to the surface, new layers unveiling themselves in frantic whispers. Suddenly, Dominic's gaze darted around, locking onto Jonathan with a heated intensity. "You were supposed to be gone," he spat. Revelation and betrayal mingling in the chaotic air. And then, in that crowded bakery filled with the sweet scent of bread and fear, everything transformed again. Whatever little Lily had been harboring, it wasn't just her secret. It was a living thing, a monstrous truth, wrapped in layers of betrayal that no one saw coming. As the confrontation reached its boiling point, Elias's heart raced. What had Jonathan uncovered, and how far would they go to bury the truth? The air buzzed with whispered treachery, and just like that, Elias felt trapped in a web of lies, the very ground beneath him shifting. What did any of them truly know? And what had they lost in pursuit of this dark reality? He needed answers, but could anyone be trusted with them anymore? Elias felt a chill sweep through him as he stared at his father, Dominic, standing in the bakery like a storm front. Uncertainty hung in the air, thick and suffocating. The chaos around them dropped into an uneasy silence. Every breath held. Every heart racing. "Why are you here?" Elias's voice trembled, a mix of anger and disbelief. "You left us. You left me." Dominic stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "This isn't the time to argue. We're in danger, all of us." Gun-wielding woman, still on the floor, shifted her gaze between Jonathan and Dominic. "You can't just waltz back in here like nothing's changed, Dominic. You made your choices." Elias felt the tension crackle, a band stretched tight ready to snap. What choices? What's going on? But before anyone could respond, the door banged open again, the frigid wind whipping through the small bakery like a banshee. 2 more men stormed in, faces obscured by masks. Something deep inside Elias jolted, a fear as real as the air that filled his lungs. One of the masked men raised his weapon, eyes scanning the room with unsettling precision. "No one move. We're looking for Lily." Panic surged through the crowd. People scrambled, ducking behind counters, chairs scattering like autumn leaves in a storm. For a moment, the world shrank around them. Nothing mattered except surviving this sudden ambush. Elias's instincts kicked in. He grabbed Lily's arm, pulling her close to him. "We need to get out of here." But just as he turned, he saw her face. The fear twisted with something else, something darker. "Wait," she cried out, eyes wide, voice trembling. "I can't leave." "What do you mean? They're going to hurt you." But a realization washed over her, washing the color from her face. "I know them," she whispered, trembling. Her plea hung heavy in the air. Suddenly, the woman with the shotgun steadied herself, clamping down on the floor, like a bear ready to fight. "You don't have to do this," her voice rang with authority. "If you're here for her, you need to. It's not what you think." Lily took a step back. "No, you don't understand. I didn't mean to." And just then, without warning, she stopped, eyes narrowing, as if she had flipped a switch. "I can't run anymore. There's no escaping what I did." In that instant, the room held its breath. Elias felt the world tilt, like a ship slipping beneath waves. "What did you do?" he whispered, horror creeping into his voice. But before she could answer, Jonathan stepped forward, fear in his eyes morphing into a sharp edge of determination. "You're right, Lily. We can't keep hiding the truth." The masked men shifted, uncertainty flickering across their faces. "What are you talking about?" One of them barked out, glancing nervously at his partner, eyes darting around like a trapped animal. And then it happened. The woman with the shotgun slowly lowered her weapon, a defeated look crossing her face. "Lily, you could have just told me. I was trying to protect you." With that confession hanging heavy, everything crashed down around them. The bakery, once a haven of warmth, now felt more like a trap. "Protect me?" Lily echoed, voice shaking. "From what? What do you all know?" But just then, before anyone could answer, the quietness broke. A loud bang sounded from behind the counter, sending an array of flour sacks tumbling down, revealing a hidden trapdoor. Elias's heart raced. "What is that?" The masked men tensed, exchanging glances filled with panic and realization. "We need to get her," one shouted. "Lily, come with me." Jonathan reached out, desperation lining his voice. But as everyone moved, a blinding spark flickered across the room. A figure stepped through the opening of the trapdoor, a girl, no older than 16, with fierce determination flaring in her eyes. "You can't take her." Elias felt the world shift below him, as dread seeped in. "Who the hell are you?" The girl glanced at him, fire in her gaze. "I'm the reason she can't escape. I'm her sister." Gasps echoed in the bakery, disbelief weaving through the air like smoke. Lily's face transformed, a mix of horror and recognition. "You? How?" But before she could finish, the masked men surged forward, chaos erupting anew. The truth, dark and twisted, loomed. Secrets long buried were clawing their way to the surface, and something sinister lay hidden in the shadows. Elias's mind spun, the connections exploding around him like fireworks. Who was everyone? What had he stumbled into? And could anyone truly be trusted anymore? As the bakery erupted in a whirlwind of confusion, a single question pierced through the noise, wrapping around him tightly. How deep did this betrayal run? The bakery pulsed with chaos, confusion mixing with the sweet aroma of pastries gone stale. Elias's heart raced, his grip on Lily tightening, as he fought to comprehend the scene unfolding. The masked men eyed the girl who had declared herself Lily's sister, their faces frozen in shock. Silence floated for a brief moment, but it shattered under the weight of uncertainty. "Wait, you?" One of the masked men spat, fingers twitching on his weapon. "How did you find her?" Before the girl could reply, a sudden explosion rattled the walls of the bakery. The front windows burst outward, showering shards of glass like rain. A blast of icy air wafted in, sending a shiver through the crowd. "What the hell?" Elias shouted, instinctively shielding Lily, heart thundering in his ears. Was someone outside trying to shoot their way in? But it wasn't gunfire or a grenade. It was another figure, a woman with a wild look in her eyes tumbling through the gap of the broken window, a fiery streak of determination and chaos as she landed. She was dressed in dark clothing, sweat glistening on her brow. A strange device whirred in her hands, and as she skidded to a stop, she hurled it across the floor. "Get down," she screamed, her voice like a cannonade. The room erupted into a wave of panic as the device exploded, not with a bang, but with a blinding flash, sending radiant light exploding outward. Elias squinted, the brightness seizing his senses. When his vision cleared, he was stunned to find that everyone around him was frozen, faces caught in expressions ranging from horror to disbelief. The world held its breath. But then, shock gripped his chest. Jonathan, his childhood friend, stood in the center of the chaos, eyes wide, mouth moving, but no sound emerged, as if trapped in a glass box. The woman who had blasted in stood still too, her face etched with fear, fingers trembling over the still whirring device. "Get her!" Elias shouted, pointing at the masked men, heart pounding. But they were statues too, frozen mid-motion. "What did you do?" Lily breathed, horror creeping onto her face. But something clicked in her head. "You were the one the whole time." The device whirred to a halt, a sudden silence crashing into the bakery, echoing like a haunting bell. As if released from an invisible bond, Jonathan and the woman turned toward Lily. "You have no idea what you're part of," Jonathan finally rasped, his tone heavy with secrets. "What?" Lily's voice snapped, confusion morphing into something deeper. "You literally opened the box," Jonathan said, pointing a trembling finger at her. Elias felt an avalanche of emotions crash over him. "What box? What are you hiding?" The words dripped with urgency, every heartbeat echoing with desperation. With all eyes fixed on them, the girl who had rushed in took a step forward, her voice low and steady. "None of you understand how deep this goes. We're not just fighting for survival. We're unraveling a legacy." "Legacy?" Elias echoed, confusion knotting in his stomach. The atmosphere thickened, walls of tension closing in as the woman finally spoke, a tremor in her voice. "You think this is about kidnapping? No, this is about legacy, your family's legacy, Lily." As she said it, everything spun into overwhelming chaos. The masked men, powerful and deadly, were turning into puppets, dangling at the edge of this revelation. Elias's breaths came shallow. "What do you mean? What did my family do? Your father, he's not just a businessman." The woman's gaze locked on Elias, fierce and unyielding. "He's the source of everything." The moment Lily was born, it tore open a time-traveling thread, the box we all protect. The weight of her words hit like a sledgehammer, sending shockwaves through his mind. Time travel? His logical self balked. But something in the air, the gravity of the moment, begged him to accept this madness. Time travel? The concept felt absurd. Then, piercing through his thoughts, Jonathan whispered, "If they get control of her, they can rewrite everything." A beat of silence followed, taut like a drawn bowstring. Then, a collective gasp burst from the crowd, one of the masked men finally moving forward, face uncovered, revealing a familiar face that knocked the breath from Elias's lungs. It was his older brother, Jake, believed to be lost in the chaos. "Elias," Jake said, voice thick with tension, "you need to understand, we're running out of time." Elias's heart sank, reality shattering into a million pieces, like the glass around him. His brother had chosen a side? The air felt heavy, electric with confusion and betrayal. With fear gripping his voice, a new question formed. What secrets lie in this legacy? And all he could think was, what had his family really built? Elias stared, shock choking him as he processed the scene around him. Jake, his brother, the brother he thought was lost, was here, standing as a puppet of this twisted drama. Why Jake? Why did you disappear? Why side with them? Jake's eyes flickered with urgency, but there was something else. A chill. Elias, you don't know the whole truth, he murmured, glancing towards the masked men who still circled like vultures. What truth? Elias pressed. Did you know what they were up to? I had to choose a side. You have to understand, it's bigger than any of us. His face tightened, desperation clawing at him. In that instant, Lily's expression shifted from fear to comprehension, her eyes wide. You're connected to this, to them. Jake flinched at her accusation, but before he could respond, a loud shattering came from outside. The ground trembled underfoot and the bakery windows rattled violently. People screamed, scattering like leaves on a windy day. Elias's heart raced. What now? He shouted, instinctively pulling Lily closer. The masked men exchanged glances, their resolve faltering. We have to go, one muttered, fear creeping into his voice. But then, as if the universe had turned on its head, the ground shook again. This time it buckled. The floor split open. A dark crevice widened, pulling linoleum and chairs into a gaping darkness. It wasn't just chaos, it was destruction. As people shrieked in panic and scrambled away from the abyss, Elias could feel the weight of dread settle in his stomach. What is happening? He yelled, fighting to keep his ground. Then, from the churning darkness below, a blinding light erupted, swirling with colors that made no sense, a storm of brilliant hues that pulled the very air from his lungs. And then came the voices, echoing from the depths. Familiar, yet foreign, twisting through time and space. Elias strained to hear as memories flooded back. Fragments of childhood laughter, shadows on his father's face, evenings spent dreaming about impossible things. Lily, the voice cried out, clear and ringing with urgency, pulling him back to the moment. He turned, but it was the woman with the shotgun who gasped first. No, it can't be. Her eyes filled with horror. She stepped back, falling against the counter. It's not supposed to happen like this. Elias blinked rapidly. What are you talking about? And just like that, the figure materialized from the swirling light. A woman, hair wild as flames, eyes glowing. She was ethereal, and yet undeniably familiar. Mom? Elias whispered, throat tight. You're alive. But the moment was shattered as the bakery quaked again. Deeper this time, like thunder rolling through the walls. Shadows surged forward, creeping toward everyone as fear morphed into frenzy. Jonathan shouted, "We don't have time, get out!" But the words vanished in the chaos. The bakery erupted into frantic motion, everyone battling against their own shock. Rushing towards exits, but finding them blocked, the walls closing in. And then, in a voice that shook the very foundations of the room, the woman turned her gaze towards Jake. You were never meant to be part of this. You don't belong here. Jake stepped back as if flapped, his expression flipping from betrayal to guilt and back again. What do you mean? I know what you did. She pointed an accusing finger, anger billowing like wildfire. Before anything could be processed, before anyone could react, a piercing howl of light enveloped them all. Shadows blew away. The bakery began to dissolve, walls fading as reality twisted around them. Elias felt himself being yanked forward, dragging everything with him. It felt like being pulled through a tunnel, breath snatched away, and then darkness. The last echo of screams swallowed by nothingness. And just like that, they were gone. The bakery vanished into an abyss, leaving no trace, no explanation. Elias landed, gasping for breath on solid ground, blinking away confusion as he took in his surroundings. They weren't in the bakery anymore. They were somewhere else, somewhere vast and open under a sky swirling with colors that shouldn't exist. Lily cried out beside him, and they both turned to see the others struggling to rise. Jake, Jonathan, even the woman who had come crashing in. But Elias's blood ran cold as a new figure loomed closer. A man, tall and shadowy, stepping from the glowing horizon. You've opened the door, he said, voice smooth yet laced with something dark, and now there's no going back. Elias's heart dropped as understanding washed over him, a chilling realization of what secrets had truly been unearthed. The time travel, the legacy, and layers of betrayal deeper than he ever thought possible. Now surrounded by faces that held nothing but uncertainty, he thought of all they had lost: the bakery, the emotions, the connections, and the peril that loomed ahead like a storm ready to collapse. "What now?" he whispered, eyes locked on the mysterious figure who smiled, an ominous twist of fate. "Now, we begin." Elias stood frozen, the weight of the swirling colors above pressing down on him. The tall figure, with shadows lingering around him, smiled in a way that sent a chill racing through Elias's bones. "Now, we begin." With those words hanging in the air, everything felt like it shifted again, the ground trembling beneath their feet. The tension coiled tightly, ready to snap, but Elias couldn't shake the feeling that something darker lingered just beneath the surface of this strange moment. "Do you know who you're dealing with?" Jake stepped forward, tension crackling between him and the shadowy man. "You don't have any idea what she's capable of, or who she is," the man said, his voice smooth but heavy with implied threat. "You're all on borrowed time." And then, Lily gasped. "What do you mean?" Her voice trembled, confusion melting into clarity. But before anyone could answer, the ground roared again, the ripped earth yawning beneath them. A pulse of light shot out of the crack, blinding and deafening, swallowing everything, sound and sight alike. Elias squeezed his eyes shut, hands clenched tight, but it wasn't just the noise. It was a sensation too, like being caught in a storm, tossed and flung in every direction until he couldn't tell which way was up. When the chaos died down, Elias opened his eyes again, finding himself in a stark white room. Everything was blindingly pristine, sterile. He looked around. There were no walls, no ceiling, just an endless expanse. But something bothered him. This wasn't just an empty room. There were dates and names swirling around him, like a collage from a forgotten diary. And at the center, painfully familiar, Elias Carter, May 20th, 2025. His heart dropped. What is happening? He spun around, searching for the others, feeling the air thicken with dread. Lily stood beside him, eyes wide with horror. This is wrong." Her hands trembled, clutching Elias's arm. "We have to get out of here." But then Jonathan, still by their side, turned to them, eyes locked in a fierce intensity. "You have no idea what you've unleashed, Elias. It's not just about time, it's about fate." "Fate?" Elias echoed, bewildered. "What do you mean?" Suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the noise, a crackle, like electricity coursing through the air. And there, among the swirling chaos of names, a new date appeared. Lily Carter, September 23rd, 2023. Shock spread across Lily's face, a tremor in her voice. "That's my birth date." Panic spread like wildfire. "What does this mean?" But before she could react more, a blinding flash erupted, and a figure stepped from the swirling light. A young girl, hair spinning with a brilliant golden glow, eyes sharp with clarity. Her smile, electric, sent shock waves of recognition spiraling through Elias. "Mom?" he breathed, the world slamming to a stop. The girl, small yet powerful, pointed directly at Lily. "You don't know me yet, but soon you will understand how all of this is connected. You're not who you think you are." "What?" Lily's voice cracked, fear and confusion flooding her thoughts. "What do you mean?" Then, the girl's mouth twisted into a grin, piercing yet tender. "You're part of a cycle, Lily, a cycle that spans generations. You're the key." Elias's mind raced. A key? To what? To this chaos? To his family's legacy? Questions spun wildly. He felt unmoored, as if he had stepped onto a tightrope with no safety net beneath. And then it hit him, like ice water poured into his veins. If Lily was the key, what did it mean for him? For everyone. The world around him blurred, and suddenly, the lines between friend and enemy blurred too. Secrets wrapped in shadows unfurled, slithering like snakes through the air, and as the young girl stepped closer, words spilling that could tear their lives apart, one question echoed sharply. What if everything we've done was destined to fail? As the darkness whispered around them, vulnerability clawed at Elias's chest. The answer seemed just out of reach, a storm lingering on the horizon, ready to unleash its fury. They stood on the cusp of a revelation, one that could destroy everything they thought they knew, but they needed to know. As Elias gazed into the eyes of the girl, his mother, a chilling truth settled in. How deep does the betrayal run? Who would rise and who would fall? What would be left standing when the dust settled? Elias stumbled back, the truth swirling around him like mist. "You're alive?" The shock sent a tremor through his voice. His mother stood before him, yet she felt both foreign and familiar, a specter from his past wrapped in uncertainty. "Yes, Elias," she said, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "And you're right at the center of this." Lily's breath hitched. "But why? How is this all connected?" Her confusion skated on the edge of fear, a raw emotion that echoed in Elias's chest. The world around them dimmed, reality bending against the immensity of their revelations. "Your birth was not just a coincidence, Lily," their mother said, her voice soft but deliberate. "You were destined to be more than you think. You're a shard of something ancient, something that could change everything." Elias felt bile rise in his throat. Change what? The question hung in the air like a dense fog. "Time itself," he heard Jonathan whisper, a shiver coursing through his spine. And just like that, the swirling colors intensified, pushing the very fabric of their lives into a churning chaos. Faces, emotions, fears, all began to fracture as the truth rolled in, like a relentless tide. Shadows loomed, coiling around them, threatening to engulf everything they knew. "Hurry," Jake shouted, thrusting his arm toward the crack in the reality behind them. "We need to find the portal. It's our only way back." His voice echoed fear and urgency, tinged with desperation, but their mother shook her head. "No, you don't understand. The portal is unstable. It's not simply a door. It's alive, aware. If we don't do this right, it could destroy us all." Elias felt an icy grip around his heart. "What do we do then? How do we stop this?" She stepped closer. "You have the power. Trust your instincts. Lily, repeat after me." The words felt foreign, yet familiar. They pulsed with urgency, burning through the chaos. "With love," Lily began, her voice steady despite the crack in her composure. "We forge our path." Elias found his voice, joining her. "With courage." Together. As they spoke, warmth flooded the space, enveloping them in a cocoon of light. The shadows shrank back, twisting as if recoiling from the warmth emanating from their unity. The vortex pulsed. "Hold on to each other," Jonathan shouted as the air crackled with energy, an electric hum buzzing all around them. The light flared, brighter, drawing them together. And all at once, the remnants of the bakery began to dissolve. The world they knew ripped apart, threads of their lives intertwined, blurring their present with the past. Elias gasped for breath, fear mingling with hope as the reality shattered. When the blinding light settled, it revealed a vast, serene landscape, the chaos left behind. Did we do it?" Lily's voice was small, incredulous. A beautiful panorama unfolded around them. Untouched and bright, the colors were radiant. But his mother stepped forward, her features softening. "This isn't the end, but a beginning. The cycle continues. Now your journey truly starts." A tear slipped down Elias's cheek as weight lifted from his heart. "Will we see you again?" She paused, a mixture of sorrow and understanding in her eyes. "Only if you carry our legacy forward. You are the future, my children." And like wisps of smoke, she began to fade, leaving behind the warmth that felt like home. "Wait," Jake called out, desperation clawing at him. "You can't leave us." "I've always been with you," she whispered just before vanishing, her voice a gentle echo that wrapped around them. As silence enveloped them, Elias felt an overwhelming sense of possibility. They stood together holding hands, an unbreakable bond forged through storms of chaos and clashes of fate. A final, shared glance told them everything. They were not alone in this fight. They were a family now, bound by intertwining destinies. Elias drew a breath, heart wearing scars of danger but swelling with newfound strength. Together, they would navigate this vast unknown. But the world around them buzzed with unresolved mysteries. You have to subscribe right now. Don't miss any of the exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm. It's the moment to show your support. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about the ending. I want to hear from you. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. Don't wait even one more second to share this. Only real fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let's leap into the next adventure together.